You ever notice how some people will go into the same experience but come out with two completely different results? You ever notice that? Like we've seen this before. We've seen people come out of church, come out of a service, walk right into the lobby, and they'd be like, "Wow, it was too cold in there, and it was too loud in there, and it was just too dark, and it didn't really, there wasn't really much of a move there, and it was just the sermon was so long today, and then watch this, and then someone walked right out behind him, like literally 5 steps behind him, and they got snot coming out of their nose. I felt God in there, Same event, 2 different experiences completely, I told a friend of mine about, there's a barbecue place down in San Marcos. It's called Phil's Barbecue. They just make good barbecue, y'all. It's pretty good. So anyway, I like it. I really like it. We buy the sauce. She buys the sauce by the case for me, But anyway, I was telling a friend about it. And so he and his family, they went all down there, and I talked to him about a couple weeks later. And I said, "Hey, how'd you like Phil's Barbecue?" And he says, He says, didn't really care for their ribs. And I said, you know what you are? You're an anti-ribite. That's what you are. You're an anti-ribite. Listen, all I'm saying is the same event, completely 2 different experiences, right? And it's kind of how life is a lot of times, isn't it? You have someone reflect back on something that they've gone through. 2020 was just like that. 2020, 2021, during the height of the pandemic. Some people were like going stir crazy, like out of their mind. They couldn't even, they didn't know which end was up. They were slipped into depression, all kinds of stuff, right? I know one family, they were so excited during the COVID season because they didn't have to pay rent. Right? They were like, man, this thing can last forever. But then I got another friend who's a landlord who rents out his family's home, and he wasn't getting any rent. Same event, different experiences. You can think back on something that's occurred in your life and how you watch some people come through it. Let me say it like this. Sometimes you get to see the miracle. Sometimes you get to be the miracle. As you have a dogged faith and trust God beyond your own understanding. And He gives you this grace that gets you through a season where there was a time when maybe you might not have been able to get through it, and then you have someone else who go through the same event, not just literally fold down, switch off. We were talking about yesterday, actually it was just about a week ago, about something that we'd done as a family, whatever, and we were talking about that event, and we all had a different experience in that event. And Addie, our youngest, she's 5. She said, "Well, back in my day, this is how I used to do it. Back in my day, right? I mean, everybody's got their own experience." That's the reason why we can have an altar call, and you can have a 90-year-old come down here, kneel down at the altar, and give his life to Christ. And 5 feet over, you can have a 9-year-old giving his heart to Christ, and they're both precious to God. But they come from 2 different experiences or 2 different perspectives on what they're doing there at that altar. Amen. There's one guy in the Bible. I think this is Mark 5. Anyway, one guy, Luke, it's in the Bible, right? And he'd been lame. He'd been lame for most of his life. And Jesus comes by at this pool and asks him, "Do you want to get well?" And of course, he gives him the excuses. No one's there. The angel stirs up the water, and there's all these traditions, and I'm not able to get in all that. And finally, Jesus just tells him, "Just pick up your mat and walk." And the guy picks up his mat, and he's walking. Wow, what an experience. But then you got some religious people standing over there watching, and they like roll up on this guy. And they're like, Hey, weren't you the guy that was laying on that mat? And he's like, yeah, I'm not laying on that mat anymore. This man healed me. Didn't even know who Jesus was. Couldn't even tell you who he is. I don't know who he is. And they got mad at him because he got healed on the Sabbath. People do that to you sometimes, right? Because they come from a different perspective, or their experience is a little bit different. Same event, different experience. And sometimes, don't you feel like saying sometimes, like, I know I haven't arrived where you are right now. I know I haven't experienced everything I'm supposed to experience, but can you just please give me a break and stop staring at my mat while I learn how to walk this thing out by faith? Right? It's utter madness. Right? Same event, different experience. Catherine Coleman used to say it like this. I think she started this and then it got picked up from different, Rod Parsley and different people like that. But she would say it like this. She would say, expectation is the breeding ground for miracles. So whatever experience that you brought into this house this morning, whatever your expectation is, God says, I'm going to meet you at your level of expectation. Watch this. But His grace will take your level of expectation to a level that you could never reach on your own. All I'm saying is this morning, the service is still young. We're about ready to hear the word. We got a little bit more worship to do, right? If you're in catch-up mode right now, you kind of came in, you're kind of lethargic or not really, come on, just catch up in the spirit this morning. Let your attitude and your expectation take you throughout this service. And I'm telling you, God's going to do something for you today. Well, that's my greeting. I hope it was okay. That's all right.